My husband Raymond and his mother Dolores thought they had the perfect system. For 40 years, they spoke Spanish right in front of my face, discussing my flaws, my stupidity, and my finances, believing I couldn't understand a single syllable. They treated me like a piece of furniture, necessary, but deaf. But they made one fatal mistake. They forgot that people can learn. And on the night of our 40th wedding anniversary, surrounded by 50 of their closest friends, I decided it was finally time to join the conversation. And let me tell you, a look on their faces was worth every single second of the 40 years I waited. Welcome back to the channel. If you've ever been underestimated or treated like you were invisible, this story is for you. Today's tale is about patience, secret rebellion, and the ultimate mic drop moment. Hit that like button if you love seeing karma served cold. And let's get into the story. I met Raymond in the summer of 1989. I was 31, a dental hygienist, hopeful and perhaps a little naive. Raymond was charming, handsome, and came from a large, tight-knit Mexican-American family that had been in Arizona for generations. He courted me the old-fashioned way: flowers, dinners, sunset walks. He told me I was beautiful. He told me he couldn't live without me. I believed him. I wanted to believe him, but the red flags were there from the beginning. I just chose to paint them white. It started with his mother, Dolores. She was the matriarch, a woman who commanded respect, or fear, from everyone in her orbit. At our engagement dinner, she was polite to my face, smiling and hugging me, but all evening, she and Raymond spoke in rapid-fire Spanish, exchanging glances, laughing at jokes. I had taken 2 years of high school French. Spanish was just noise to me. When I asked Raymond what they were saying, he'd pat my hand condescendingly. "She's just happy for us, darling. That's all." I married him anyway. The control started slowly. First, it was the suggestions. "Don't wear that, it's too revealing. Don't cook that, my mother makes it better." Then it became demands. Within a year, Raymond insisted I quit my job as a dental hygienist. "You are my wife," he said, his voice cold and final. "My job is to provide. Your job is the home. It looks bad if you work. It looks like I can't support you." I loved my job. I loved my patients, but I quit. I told myself marriage was about compromise. Then came the struggle for children. For 5 years, we tried. Doctors, tests, tears. When we found out it wasn't going to happen, Raymond didn't comfort me. He looked at me with disappointment, and that's when the Spanish conversations intensified. Dolores would come over unannounced, letting herself in with a key Raymond gave her without asking me. She would inspect my dusting, check my refrigerator, and then sit with Raymond in the living room. They would talk for hours. Sometimes they argued, but mostly they would look at me. Dolores would look at me with pity, or sometimes disgust. Raymond would look at me with annoyance. "What are you talking about?" I asked once. "Nothing that concerns you," Raymond snapped. "Just family business. You wouldn't understand." I was isolated. I had no money of my own. Raymond controlled the house was in his name. My name wasn't even on the checking account. I was 62 years old, and I had become a ghost in my own life. But 3 years ago, everything changed. I was at the public library, the one place Raymond allowed me to go without questions. I saw a flyer on the bulletin board: free Spanish classes for seniors, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 a.m. I stared at that flyer. My heart started hammering in my chest. Raymond thought I was at a book club. I tore the tab off the flyer. That was the beginning of my double life. For 3 years, I went to those classes. It was hard. My brain felt rusty. But my teacher, a wonderful woman named Rosa, encouraged me. "You have an ear for it," she said. I practiced in secret. I downloaded apps on my phone and hid them in a folder marked recipes. I watched telenovelas with subtitles when Raymond was at work. And slowly, the noise turned into words. The words turned into sentences, and the realization broke my heart. I started to understand what they were saying. I remember the first full sentence I understood clearly. It was a Tuesday evening. Dolores was sitting on my sofa, drinking the coffee I had just brewed. She looked at me, smiled sweetly, and then turned to Raymond and said in sway, like an old cow. Raymond didn't defend me, he laughed. She was never smart, Mama, but at least she keeps the house clean. I stood there holding the coffee pot, my knuckles turning white. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the hot coffee in his face, but I didn't. I poured his cup, smiled, and walked back to the kitchen. My anger turned into ice, cold, hard, and sharp. Over the next few months, I became a spy in my own home. I learned everything. I learned that Raymond thought I was boring and useless. I learned that Dolores blamed me entirely for our lack of children, calling me a barren mule. I learned that Raymond had bought a rental property in Phoenix 3 years ago and put it in his brother's name to hide the asset from our marital estate. I learned that he transferred $500 a month to a woman named Elena in Tucson. They discussed all of this right in front of me while I folded their laundry, while I served them dinner. She has no idea, Raymond would say, chuckling. It is better that way, Dolores would reply. I kept my mouth shut. I took notes. I wrote down dates, amounts, names. I built a dossier of their cruelty and their financial fraud. I waited. I didn't know what I was waiting for until Raymond announced his plans for our 40th wedding anniversary. We're having a party, Raymond declared. 50 people, a caterer, in the backyard. It needs to be perfect. Why? I asked. We usually just a dinner, because 40 years is a milestone, he said, puffing out his chest. It shows stability. It's good for my reputation at the company. Not sortie oratory. Anniversary, Hisudi reputation. Wear the dark blue dress, he ordered. The modest one. My mother likes that one. Okay, Raymond, I said obediently. The day of the party arrived. The backyard was transformed. There were white tents, roses, and waiters passing champagne. 50 guests. Raymond's family, his business partners, his friends. I knew maybe 5 people. I wore the blue dress. I played the part of the dutiful, silent wife. Around 8 p.m., the sun had set, and the party was in full swing. I saw Raymond and Dolores standing near the rose garden, away from the main crowd, but still visible. They were deep in conversation. I walked over, pretending to adjust a flower arrangement on a nearby table. I was about 10 feet away. Close enough. They looked at me, they saw me, and because they saw the dumb wife, they didn't lower their voices, they switched to Spanish. She looks old tonight, Dolores said, sipping her wine. Are you sure you want to wait? I have to, Raymond replied. But I talked to the lawyer today. My ears perked up. Lawyer, and? Dolores asked. It is all set, Raymond said, a smirk playing on his lips. I'm updating the living trust next week. When I die, she gets nothing, just the minimum state requirement, which I've minimized by moving the cash to Miguel's account. Good. Dolores nodded. The house? It goes to Miguel's sons, Raymond said. Real family. Why should she keep it? She'd just sell it and waste the money. She's too stupid to manage an estate. And her retirement. What retirement? Raymond laughed. She hasn't worked in 30 years. She thinks we have savings together. But the main accounts are in my name only. She'll be lucky if she can afford a trailer park. I stood there, my hand freezing on the rose petal. They weren't just insulting me. They were planning to leave me destitute. They were planning to steal 40 years of my life and leave me on the street when Raymond died. Something inside me snapped. But it wasn't a snap of hysteria. It was the snap of a lock finally opening. The fear vanished. The hesitation vanished. I turned around. I grabbed a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. I walked straight up to Raymond and Dolores. Raymond, I said loudly, my voice cutting through the chatter. Dolores, they looked at me, annoyed at the interruption. What is it? Raymond snapped in English. Can't you see we're talking? I smiled. It was the brightest, sharpest smile I had worn in decades. And then, I spoke. What is it? Raymond snapped again, looking around to see if anyone was watching. We are discussing business. I looked him dead in the eye. And then, I opened my mouth. But English didn't come out. Es muy interesante lo que dijiste sobre mi jubilación, Raymond, I said. My voice was steady, resonant, perfect. The silence that fell over the 3 of us was absolute. It was as if the air had been sucked out of the universe. Raymond's face went slack. His mouth opened. but no sound came out. He looked like a fish gasping on a dock. Dolores dropped her wine glass. It hit the patio pavers and shattered, red wine splashing onto the hem of her beige dress. Crash. I didn't stop. I turned to Dolores. Y Dolores, I continued, my Spanish flowing like water. Soy villa, si pero, no soy estúpida. Y definitivamente, no soy una vaca. I turned back to the crowd. The music had stopped. The 50 guests, Raymond's business partners, his cousins, the people who had ignored me for decades, were staring. They had heard the glass break. They were listening now. I switched to English, raising my voice so everyone could hear. For 40 years, I announced. My husband and his mother have insulted me in a language they thought I couldn't understand. Tonight, on our anniversary, they were planning how to hide our assets, so that when Raymond dies, I will be left homeless. Gasps rippled through the yard. I saw Raymond's boss's jaw drop. Raymond, I said, turning back to him. He was pale, sweating, trembling. You said I was too simple to manage an estate. You said I belong in a trailer park. Honey, Raymond stammered, his voice cracking. Honey, wait, you misunderstood. No malinterpret nada. I cut him off in Spanish. I took a sip of the champagne. It tasted like nectar. I'm leaving, Raymond, I said. And since you hid the car keys again to keep me safe, I called a taxi. It's waiting out front. I placed the champagne glass on the table next to Dolores. Happy anniversary, I whispered. I walked away. I walked through the garden past the stunned guests and out the front gate. I didn't look back. I didn't run. I walked with the stride of a woman who had finally woken up from a long, suffocating nightmare. The next morning, I didn't go back. I went straight to the law offices of Patricia Henderson, the toughest divorce attorney in Phoenix. I had been saving my grocery money, cash back from the store, for 3 years. It was enough for the retainer. Raymond tried to bully me at first. He called me screaming. He told me I had humiliated him. He told me I would get nothing, but he forgot where we lived. Arizona is a community property state. Raymond, Patricia told him during the deposition, smiling like a shark. It doesn't matter whose name is on the deed. It doesn't matter whose name is on the bank account. If it was acquired during the marriage, she owns 50%. And because I had been listening for 3 years, I knew where the bodies were buried. When Raymond tried to claim he had no savings, I slid a piece of paper across the table. Check the account at Wells Fargo ending in 4,492, I said calmly, and the rental property in Scottsdale under your brother Miguel's name. He bought it with our joint funds on the 14th of March, 2019. Raymond turned to his lawyer. His face was the color of ash. His lawyer looked at him with disgust and closed his folder. We need a recess, the lawyer muttered. The divorce took 8 months. It was brutal. Raymond fought for every penny. But every time he tried to lie, I had a date and a quote to prove him wrong. In the end, I got exactly what the law promised. 50% of the house sale, 50% of his pension, 50% of the hidden savings, and a hefty settlement for the funds he had fraudulently transferred to his mother over the years. Raymond was ruined. Not financially. He still had his half, but socially, his brothers were furious that he had dragged them into his fraud schemes. His reputation at work was shattered when the story of the anniversary party spread. He ended up living in a small condo, alone, with only Dolores to keep him company. I hear they argue, constantly. As for me, I took my settlement and moved north to Sedona. I bought a small house with a view of the Red Rocks. It has a big kitchen, a garden full of wildflowers, and walls painted in colors. Fine chose, bright yellows, warm terracottas. I didn't stop learning. I joined a Spanish conversation group here. I traveled to Spain last year alone and ordered my own paella, booked my own trains, and made new friends. I am 65 years old. I wake up when I want. I eat what I want. I wear what I want. Sometimes, I sit on my porch with a cup of coffee, watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of fire and gold. I think about that frightened, silent woman who stood in the corner for 40 years. I wish I could hug her. I wish I could tell her it's going to be okay. But then I smile, because she saved me. She listened. She learned. And when the moment came, She found her voice. It is never too late to start over. And it is never, ever safe to assume the quiet one isn't listening. People ask me if I regret the 40 years. Sometimes I do. But regret is a heavy suitcase, and I don't have the strength to carry it anymore. I prefer to carry gratitude. Gratitude that I woke up. Gratitude that I found the courage to tear up the script they wrote for me and write my own ending. To anyone listening who feels trapped, who feels invisible, you are stronger than you think. You are smarter than they say. And your life is waiting for you to claim it. And that is the story of how I learned Spanish to divorce my husband. If you enjoyed this story of justice and reinvention, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel. Have you ever learned a secret that changed your life? Tell me in the comments below. Subscribe for more stories like this, and remember, knowledge is power, especially the secret kind.